Ladies and gentlemen, how's it going? Once again, I'm Nev from Nev's Tech Bits. Today I want to talk a little bit about Intel versus AMD. A battle as old as time. We've all heard about it so much. For the most part, fanboys will always say AMD is always faster. And for the most part, I think I would completely agree with them. AMD has always been the cheaper option, and their architecture has always stayed a step ahead of Intel. For the most part, not always. More now and more about, 10, 15 years ago? Man, back in the day, you could easily get a system just as fast as any Intel with an AMD chip in it for next to nothing, and man, it was a computer explosion. Everybody was getting new systems, and systems were getting faster and faster and faster. And then all of a sudden they just stopped, and instead of having more megahertz, they just went with more cores. They had to do that because on a microscopic level, the pieces of computers, I believe it was transistors, a transistor inside a CPU, you couldn't give it electricity because electricity started working unpredictably when these things got so unbelievably small. But the unfortunate part about spending less money on the systems, often you get what you pay for, and you don't notice that immediately. And if you're the type of person to regularly update your computers every 3 to 6 years, every 3 to 5 years actually, then you shouldn't ever run into a problem with AMD. The problem I run into is like just at 5 years, just as soon as you get that thing to 5 years, the old AMDs, back in the day when AMD was really on top like 15 years ago, those AMDs seem to die early. I'm not sure if it was a problem with capacitors, bad Taiwanese capacitors that went around that a lot of systems were hit with. A lot of Acer, Dell, Toshiba, etc. They started getting leaking caps in them. It was definitely unfortunate. I don't have that problem with Intel. I don't have Intel systems that just suddenly die on me. So with the AMDs, the complaints I used to always get from people is they would turn their computer on, and their computer would just all of a sudden hear a snap, and that was it. Or sometimes you wouldn't even hear a snap, it just automatically turned itself off, and that was it, and we couldn't get it back together. I tried everything to get these systems back together, and I know these aren't the kinds of guys to mess with their systems, open it up to change anything, or do whatever they have to, or do whatever they think they want to. I'm wondering if these new Ryzen chips are going to be like that. Like we have them out now, they're really strong, really powerful. I can do SolidWorks off some of these low-end Ryzen 3s. SolidWorks 2018. But still, that's freaking great. That's freaking amazing, and it's all due to architecture. Then again, the architecture had to be nerfed because there was an issue with it. Do you guys remember the Spectre meltdown virus where memory could read other memory ultimately, and they had to, and in order to take care of this, older systems needed to be nerfed about 30%. Well, the same thing happened recently with the Ryzen chip. Unfortunately, hackers found around it, so they have to nerf it. But I almost wonder if there are people out there who would be okay with having those doors open, and keeping the speed. But I gotta say, when it comes to selling computers, when it comes to providing your customers with computers, I would recommend Intel all day long, because people kind of got an idea about the Intel. If you tell them like an i3, an i5, or an i7, they kind of get it. They're confident that they get it. If you start talking about different kind of Ryzens, well, these days you get the 3.7 and the 12. Anyways, it's just they're helping now, but the way they used to do it didn't go very well at all. I definitely got to say, 100% Intel beats AMD in reliability over time. And the thing is with AMD, a lot of people that get AMDs are really cheap people, and they expect these things to live forever. But seriously, 5 years. You get 5 years out of a computer, you're doing pretty good. You're doing just glorious. So I don't see why any of these folks are complaining. And all these folks that do this will bring their computer, and I'm like, this thing's more than 5 years old, isn't it? Like, no, it's 2 or 3. No, it's 6. It's just how she goes. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, they're both great. They're both great, but I prefer Intel all day long for reliability till the end of the road. That being said, my AMD lasted me until the end of the road. I just had to stop using it because I found out that my kid dumped a bunch of yogurt into the case when I wasn't looking. That's unfortunate, but that's how she goes. I think it was about 7 years. I finally had to scrap her. I called her Stormbreaker. Named her 7 years ago after Horseface's hammer. That's right. Anyways, the memories. Had to take her to scrap waste recently, but she still works. She was good. She was good. Anyways, that's it for me, folks. Nev from Nev's Tech Bits. Like and subscribe if you like this stuff. It's always appreciated. And as always, folks, take care of each other, please.